Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Renegade Immortal episode number 186 based on novel. So let's start. Looking at Liumi, who had descended from the sky like a celestial, not only carefree Sanren, Sun 11 also lost his battle intent and began to struggle. Only the Ran family's ancestor, whose cultivation had reached the mid-stage of ascendant, was barely able to keep his mind clear, but he couldn't do it for long. In his mind, the voice from the woman in the sky was like a song of the heavens. The words seemed to enter his mind, and they even created a trace of mortal feelings. 10,000 illusion ruthless domain. The Ran family's ancestor's expression changed greatly and a flame began to burn within him. This flame came from the fusion of his origin soul and origin energy. This caused his cultivation to improve leaps and bounds. He then let out a roar. This roar was like thunder that rumbled across the sky and moved the heavens and earth. Sun Shi's eyes regained clarity and he felt terror in his heart. Just at that moment, he had a feeling like he was facing his own loved one, and he didn't have the heart to attack at all. Liumi's expression was neutral as she closed in and softly said, "The three of you are not my match. If you come back with me to the Huan family, you might have a chance of living." The Ran family's ancestor's body was now covered in flames, and he took a step forward. His hand formed a seal and then he pressed his hand down. The Ran family's palm thunder immediately appeared and a burst of lightning shot out from his hand directly toward Liumi. Liumi revealed a look of helplessness and gently played with her hair. Her jade hand moved forward, and there was a flash of ruthlessness in her eyes. The tip of her finger touched the thunder, causing it to tremble and suddenly dissipate. Liumi softly said, "Since you are going to burn your souls, then burn it a little more thoroughly." After she said that, the fanaticism in the eyes of carefree Sanren behind the Ran family's ancestor became even stronger. There was even a sense of obsession within them. He was already in a very chaotic state. In his eyes, the heavens and earth no longer existed, the only thing that remained was the figure of the woman before him. Without any hesitation, he took a step forward and blocked the Ran family's ancestor. The origin soul in his body suddenly ignited. This kind of burning wasn't just his origin soul but also his physical body. "There is also you." Liumi's gaze fell on Sun 11. Sun 11 had just suppressed his heart, but after hearing Liumi's words, it completely collapsed. His body trembled and fanaticism appeared in his eyes just like carefree Sanren. He burned his origin soul and body without any hesitation in exchange for a moment of peak power. His finger formed a sword and he pointed it at the Ran family's ancestor without any hesitation. The Ran family's ancestor revealed a pitiful smile and said, "Jiao Chuan Wen, Sun 11, I feel sad for the two of you." However, carefree Sanren and Sun 11 seemed to have not heard him at all and released their spells without any hesitation. Then they began their battle to the death with the Ran family's ancestor. Bursts of thunderous rumbles and flashes of spells caused the earth to shake and the sky to darken. Carefree Sanren and Sun Shi's bodies quickly dissipated. However, every bit of their bodies that disappeared made their cultivation get stronger. They battled like madmen against the Ran family's ancestor. Liumi revealed a faintly smile. She really didn't need to bring anyone because as long as she was here, there would be countless cultivators willing to fight for her. This was the 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao. Everything in the world could be used by it. The Huang family's ancestor was willing to pay the price and perform the bloodline ritual for Liumi because of this. He wanted to see what kind of power it would have once it reached the second step. The entire planet was in an earthquake-like state. Loud rumblings would constantly come from the ground. The Ran family's ancestor's heart was filled with despair and he also began burning his body. He was doing his best to exchange it for the most amount of power. As both his origin soul and body burned, his cultivation level rose like crazy. He managed to reach the power of a late-stage ascendant cultivator without a domain. His cultivation level was raised too quickly, so his domain couldn't keep up, making him only a pseudo-late-stage ascendant cultivator. Even so, he was extremely powerful. As he let out a roar, his body quickly dissipated and his hand quickly formed seals. He suddenly closed his hands and then a dazzling light surrounded them. He wasn't using a spell, it was the most direct method to use the origin energy inside his body. The origin energy turned into this golden light. As he suddenly opened his hands, the golden light shot out like sharp swords in all directions. At this moment, Sun 11 and Carefree Sanren's bodies were about to dissipate. They only had half of their bodies left, and the rest had disappeared into the void. The fanaticism in their eyes became even stronger, and without any hesitation, the two decided to self-destruct. Boom! Boom! The self-destruction of ascendant cultivators who were burning their origin souls and bodies caused a great catastrophe for planet Renyun. The sky seemed to collapse and the earth burst open. The seas of planet Renyun rose up hundreds of feet and slammed down on the earth as if the planet was angry. The spirit veins in planet Renyun were like gunpowder and all began to explode with the guidance of the self-destruction. Sun 11 and Carefree Sanren's origin souls and bodies dissipated. Even at the moment of their deaths, they were still not sober. The Ran family's ancestor was at the center. Although he was able to resist it with his powerful cultivation, he still ended up covered in blood. His bloodshot eyes stared at the still calm Liumi before him and he snapped, "What a disgusting bitch. This battle is between you and me, why did you spread it to the mortals on this planet?" Liumi faintly smiled and softly said, "I haven't attacked at all. The three of you were fighting amongst yourself, what does it have to do with me?" The Ran family's ancestor raised his head and laughed out loud. This laughter was filled with despair and sadness. While he laughed, tears came from the corners of his eyes and he looked down at the earth. The originally beautiful planet was already in ruins. He knew that if he were to self-destruct to injure her, planet Renyun would become a wasted cultivation planet. "This is my home." His face was filled with bitterness as he looked at Liumi and said, word for word, "I, Ran Xiefeng, will use my current cultivation to curse you to die without a grave. Also, the person that killed Huandong wasn't the three of us. There is another person named Xu Mu." As he spoke, he raised his right hand and hit his forehead. There was a cracking sound as his burning origin soul immediately collapsed and spread to his body. His entire body slowly dissipated before Liumi's calm gaze. Eventually, it turned to dust and landed on the ground. "I was born on Renyun and will die on Renyun. All I, Ran Xiefeng, can do is my best to protect planet Renyun. As for you, Xu Mu, you despicable man, I curse you to die together with Huan Mai." Liumi's eyes showed a hint of indifference as if nothing in the world could affect her mind. She looked at the earth below her, and with a step she headed down toward the ground. "The Ran family, Zhao family, and Sun family need to be wiped out. This is Master's request, and it has nothing to do with me. There was also that Xu Mu. That person is a little strange," Liumi thought to herself, then she suddenly frowned. Her divine sense spread out and stopped at the extreme southern part of the planet. "There is a clone. That Sun cultivator is interesting. This means that the Ran family's ancestor and the Zhao cultivator also have a clone." Liumi chuckled. This clone was hidden very well. If it wasn't for the fact that the clone had released a fluctuation when the main body died, Liumi would not have found it. After all, without specifically looking for it, she would have completely ignored it after one sweep of her divine sense. In the city in the southern part of planet Renyun, a youth sat inside a house. This youth looked exactly like Sun 11, and his face was filled with a bitter expression. Since 4 years ago, after realizing that they had made a big mistake in killing the Huan family member, the three of them had concentrated all their efforts into refining clones. There were no special methods used, and the clones were so weak that they couldn't battle at all. However, it was still a method of keeping themselves alive. The Ran family's ancestor had been secretly refining a clone for hundreds of years, and it had already reached the level to leave the planet. It had left the planet with the other clan members in secret 2 years ago. As for Carefree Ran, his methods were a bit lacking, so he couldn't split his origin soul, meaning he couldn't refine a clone. However, he had other means. As for exactly what, no one else knew. Although this Sun 11 was able to refine a clone, its cultivation was only at the core formation stage, so it simply couldn't leave the planet. Before, when he looked for Wang Lin, he was going to ask for help on this matter. However, before he could ask, he was refused by Wang Lin. Also, this matter was of great importance, so after hesitating, he didn't continue asking. Otherwise, if Shumu had figured out that the three of them all had their own means of staying alive and were only dragging him into this to be a scapegoat, he was afraid that no matter how much celestial jades they offered, Shumu wouldn't have agreed. In fact, Shumu might have attacked them in anger. Liumi teleported and arrived in the southern part of planet Ranyun. Just as she was about to step into the city, she suddenly jerked her head to face the sky. Her eyes were filled with a never-before-seen mysterious light. This aura. A silver light crossed through the stars and arrived outside planet Ranyun. Wang Lin was sitting on the star compass. He collected the 3 celestial jades, so he had to at least do as he had promised. Otherwise, there would be no reason for him to return. His expression was originally neutral, but when he saw the powerful ceiling formation around planet Ranyun, his eyes narrowed. He stood up from the star compass and stared at the restriction with his eyes glowing. When I left, this restriction wasn't there. Wang Lin had a very good understanding of restrictions. Although he couldn't break this restriction in a short period of time, he could enter without damaging it. He pondered a bit before the star compass under him charged through the restriction and flew straight at planet Ranyun. On planet Ranyun, as Liumi raised her head, the mysterious light in her eyes became even stronger. Wang Lin put away the star compass and stepped into planet Ranyun. At the moment he entered the atmosphere, a flash of coldness appeared in his eyes. When he was outside, he noticed that the planet was in ruins. Waves of celestial spiritual energy were echoing in the area. It was clear that a great battle had just occurred here. He took a deep breath. His divine sense had already seen Liumi's figure in the southern part of planet Ranyun. Liumi's appearance had changed somewhat. It could be said that she looked even more stunning than before. Frowning slightly, Wang Lin took a step forward and disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in the southern part of the planet, only 1,000 feet from Liumi. Liumi stared at the figure that appeared 1,000 feet from her, and the mysterious light in her eyes became even stronger. She had noticed him when he was approaching the planet. She felt that he was vaguely familiar, but his appearance was completely foreign to her. She didn't speak. Instead, she silently looked at Wang Lin. Wang Lin looked at Liumi and calmly said, "You have already killed them. You can leave." He came here wondering why Liumi was at the southern part of the planet. When he spread out his divine sense, he immediately saw Sun Shi's clone. After pondering for a bit, he was able to understand what had happened. Since the 3 of them had lied to him about the clones, then there was no need for him to stick his neck out for them anymore. As long as he tried his best, it was enough. In addition, what made Wang Lin's heart sink was that this Liumi's cultivation had already reached the peak of the late stage of ascendant. This kind of cultivation caused Wang Lin's pupils to shrink imperceptibly. How could this Liumi's cultivation have reached such a level? Could it be related to the Huan family's ancestor? It must be so. Wang Lin's gaze swept Liumi's body and revealed a hint of clarity. There is still some celestial spiritual energy around her. I assume someone has forcibly raised her cultivation level. However, this kind of forced raise in cultivation is only in celestial spiritual energy. It'd be impossible for her domain to have reached the same step. Liumi stared at Wang Lin and softly said, "Have we met before?" Wang Lin calmly said, "No." Liumi looked at Wang Lin for a long time before she revealed a smile that was like the spring wind. However, what it got in return was Wang Lin's always calm as water gaze. "Enough. Leave now before I change my mind." Wang Lin's voice turned cold. This smile of hers disgusted him a lot. Back on planet Suzaku, she was like this as well. Liumi's eyes exposed a trace of complex emotion, and she softly said, "I didn't expect your cultivation to have already reached such an incredible degree. Even I can't see through it." Wang Lin frowned and coldly looked at Liumi before turning around to leave. Since the 3 people on planet Ranyun had lied about their clones, there was no need for him to continue to participate in this matter. "Wang Lin, do you really think I can't recognize you?" Liu Mai's voice contained a trace of coldness. Wang Lin stopped and turned around. Then his eyes turned cold and he said, "There is no need to test me. I'm Wang Lin. If you continue to bug me like back on planet Suzaku, then don't blame me for killing you." Currently, the inside of Liu Mai's heart was very different from her appearance. Right now her heart was in turmoil. She could have never imagined that she would meet Wang Lin in the All-Heaven star system, and his cultivation was even strong enough to the point where she couldn't see through him. Scenes from the past suddenly flashed across her eyes. As she stared at Wang Lin, the complex emotions in her eyes became even stronger, and she softly said, "Aside from you, no one else has such a cold gaze. You changed your appearance, changed your everything, but you can't change your gaze. I'm afraid you changed yourself because you don't want me to recognize you." Wang Lin frowned as he coldly looked at Liu Mai and said, "I'll say it once more, scram." Liu Mai revealed a beautiful smile, then the complex emotion in her eyes disappeared. Instead, it was replaced with indifference, and she gently said, "Your cultivation level is definitely not higher than mine. You must have some kind of treasure that can hide your cultivation. Today, you will not be leaving." There was a burst of wind and the finger of death shot out. Liu Mai's expression remained neutral as her jade hand quickly formed a seal and a spell appeared. A light screen appeared before her as the finger of death collided, causing a loud rumble. Lightning flickered everywhere and countless cracks appeared on the light screen. Liu Mai shook her head and softly said, "I didn't guess wrong. Your cultivation is only at the early stage of ascendant." Wang Lin's voice was filled with indifference as he slowly said, "Cultivation risen by force has too many drawbacks. I'm afraid your master has other motives." Liu Mai faintly smiled and said, "So what? Today, you won't be able to escape. If you hadn't reached the ascendant stage, then it wouldn't have mattered, but since you did, let us finish our feud from planet Suzaku. Let me send you to reunite with Li Muwen. You're courting death." Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and the 7-star sword formation immediately flew out. It turned into 7 rays of light and flew straight at Liu Mai. With a neutral expression, Liu Mai pointed to the spot between her eyebrows with her jade hand, then a ray of red light came out from between her eyebrows. The red light suddenly wrapped around her body and turned into the appearance of a woman. This woman was very arrogant, her eyes were fierce, and she was beautiful. A pair of phoenix eyes looked at Wang Lin with killing intent. Red butterfly. Wang Lin's eyes released a burst of golden light. This woman was Red Butterfly. Red Butterfly stared at Wang Lin and calmly said, "Our feud needs to be dealt with as well." With that, she slapped her bag of holding and a red rose appeared. She threw it forward and all the petals scattered. The petals floated toward Wang Lin with a mysterious force. What kind of spell is this? Wang Lin's pupils shrank imperceptibly. The Liu Mai before him suddenly turned into Red Butterfly. Thanks to Wang Lin's divine sense, he confirmed that this was the real Red Butterfly without any of Liu Mai's aura. Facing the petals, Wang Lin's right hand forced a seal, and with a thought, the 7-star sword formation closed in. The 7 swords formed a circle and rapidly rotated, creating a powerful sword wind that crushed the flower petals. The arrogance in Red Butterfly's eyes became even stronger as she flicked her finger and the flower's stamen flew out. Her left hand pointed a few times, then the flower stamen suddenly combined to form a rune. She pressed down her hand, causing the rune to immediately fly out. The rune continued to expand until it was more than 1,000 feet wide and pressed down on Wang Lin like a giant mountain. Wang Lin's eyes became cold as he raised his hand and pointed at the sky. A thunderbolt flashed across the sky as a long underworld river suddenly appeared and crushed the rune. The underworld river was filled with bloodlust. Under Wang Lin's control, the underworld river moved like a roaring dragon and immediately surrounded Red Butterfly. It was about to pull her entire body into the underworld river. Red Butterfly's eyes shined brightly and she calmly said, "Dao intent. You actually have your own Dao." Wang Lin let out a cold snort. As the underworld river moved, the sky darkened. There were flashes of lightning inside the underworld river, making it even more powerful. Red Butterfly felt a sense of crisis as her right hand pointed between her eyebrows once more. This time, a yellow light surrounded her body, and when it disappeared, it revealed a small and thin figure. Uncle. That word contained a mysterious power that caused Wang Lin's underworld river to suddenly pause. Ju are you? That small figure was Ju are you? She timidly looked at Wang Lin with her eyes wide open and her face filled with terror. Uncle, I finally found you. Please don't abandon me, okay? Wang Lin's eyes revealed a painful expression and he shouted, Enough, Liumi. The underworld river churned and Ju Yu was immediately pulled into it. Ju Yu's eyes were filled with fear and confusion as he looked at Wang Lin. A tear came out from her eyes and she softly said, Uncle, are you going to kill Yu? This is fake. Wang Lin took a deep breath and his heart became determined. The underworld river went for the kill and rushed into Ju Yu's body. It was about to completely submerge her. Just at this moment, a low and weak voice echoed. Tai Zhu. This voice was like a bell echoing inside Wang Lin's body. He saw the mother that he had been separated from for 800 years looking kindly at him from inside the underworld river. Wang Lin's heart trembled. His hand trembled, then the underworld river collapsed and disappeared into nothingness. This is also fake. Wang Lin's eyes glowed red. Fake? Wang Lin, thanks to my 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao, they are both fake and real. Liu Mai's voice was illusionary and came from all direction. Ju Yu and Red Butterfly appeared from the void. At the same time, Wang Lin's father appeared and looked at Wang Lin with a gentle gaze. Wang Lin, do you still remember me? Wang Shuo walked out from the void. He was no longer an old man but a high-spirited youth. Disciple, you have to remember to pass on the legacy of the soul-refining sect. Du Tian's ancient figure walked out from the void. Shortly after, figures familiar to Wang Lin walked out one by one. Each of them silently looked at Wang Lin. Their gazes were all different, some complex, some filled with loss, some filled with joy, some filled with sadness. A flash of blue light appeared in the sky and turned into a woman. This woman was Li Muwen. Li Muwen looked at Wang Lin with a gentle gaze and softly said, Wang Lin, am I also fake? She stood beside Wang Lin's mother. It was as if they were mother and daughter as they calmly looked at Wang Lin. 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao, Wang Lin looked at the familiar figures before him and his eyes revealed pain. He closed his eyes and softly said, the 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao is like the heavenly devil, it invades the body and ignites one's origin soul to burn the mind and body. Liu Mai, how much hatred is there between us for you to collect so much of my past? Every figure around him suddenly turned into green smoke and rushed into Wang Lin's body. Wang Lin opened his eyes, but they were filled with clarity. Although they were still filled with pain, it was as if he had seen through the world. It was truth that he had learned it before. He should let go of those that were meant to disappear. He raised his right hand and a strand of mist appeared over it. This mist was all the smoke that had entered his body. His origin soul contained part of the ancient thunder dragon, so it contained the power of the heavenly thunder. This 10,000 illusion heavenly devil Dao wasn't enough to cause his origin soul to burn. Looking at the mist, Wang Lin pondered for a bit and then crushed it. Although your cultivation has been forcibly increased, your understanding of your domain isn't enough. Ordinary people have a saying, to spoil things through excessive enthusiasm. That is your fatal weakness. At the moment he crushed it, a muffled groan came from the void. Following that, Liu Mai's figure appeared in the distance. Her face was pale as she stared at Wang Lin. Her eyes filled with hatred and she hissed, you are indeed Wang Lin, someone with a ruthless heart. I'm not the who is ruthless, it's you. Wang Lin's eyes revealed bear-killing intent. I focused my life on Dao, but you used the domain soul, the lust domain soul Wang Lin obtained from the giant demon clan ancestor, to break my virgin body. How do you explain this? Liu Mai's voice cracked. All the calmness from before disappeared and the hatred in her eyes became even stronger. Wang Lin frowned. This was a memory he didn't want to recall. His eyes became cold and he softly said, you were the first to act. Also, the matter with the domain soul was an accident. Accident? Liu Mai began to laugh. Her laugh grew louder until it was filled with vileness. She could keep her 10,000 illusion heavenly devil down mentality before everyone. However, when it came to the person before her, she couldn't. You answered me saying it was an accident, then I'll give you another accident. There was a hint of complex pain inside her hatred. She touched her bag of holding. Wang Lin frowned. The celestial guard suddenly appeared before him and stepped toward Liumi. Liumi's right hand lifted from the bag of holding and the storage bag opened. A black mist rushed out from inside the bag and a monstrous resentment burst forth. This resentment was heaven-shaking, and the sky darkened as if it covered by clouds. Large vortexes began to slowly rotate in the sky. The resentment was too powerful. As it spread out, the ghostly whales began to appear within 5 kilometers as if they were in the realm of ghosts. A burst of sharp shrills exploded from the black mist. The black mist was too fast even for divine sense to lock onto. It suddenly charged out past the celestial guard directly toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin's expression was neutral as he stared at the black light. At the moment it closed in, he stabbed his finger forth like a sword and created a gust of wind. This wind blew away the black mist, revealing a pair of dark eyes. The moment Wang Lin's eyes fell on that pair of black eyes, he was startled. The eyes were completely cloudy, there was no light, only monstrous resentment. However, at the moment Wang Lin saw that pair of eyes, his mind shook and a feeling of harmony filled his body. It was as if 10,000 thunderclaps had exploded in Wang Lin's ears, causing his own body to tremble. He subconsciously withdrew his finger, took a few steps back, and stared at the black mist. This is, a terrible pain appeared inside Wang Lin's heart and immediately filled his body. He looked at the black mist, and his eyes suddenly turned red. He waved his right hand, causing the celestial guard to immediately return. It became a large shadow that surrounded the black mist, preventing it from doing anything. Wang Lin's face was filled with ferocity as he shouted at Liumi, "What is inside there?" Liumi revealed a smile, but her eyes were filled with pain. She then looked at Wang Lin with a wider smile. "You don't recognize it?" "No, with your cultivation, you should be able to recognize it. There is a legend among mortals. If a person loses several children, the souls of those children will not dissipate, they will always follow you and watch you. They will seem to be saying something, but you won't be able to hear. It won't be until the moment of your death that you finally hear them ask, 'Daddy, why don't you want me?'" Liumi's voice was a bit strange, there was even a trace of madness within. "I refined this child inside my body for a century until he finally became a resentful spirit. When he gained consciousness, I kept telling him that it was his father who abandoned him. His father is called Wang Lin. Wang Lin, you ruined my Dao heart, ruined my domain, and took my body. If all of that was an accident, then let me repay you with a special magical treasure." Wang Lin silently pondered, he was in complete silence. It was as if all the life in his body had been drained away and the only thing that remained was endless death. There was no shock like the tens of thousands of thunderclaps exploding in his mind when he found out that there was hope in reviving Li Muwen. There was no outburst of madness like when he faced Teng Huiyuan, one guy who killed his whole family and then killed Wang Lin. There was only extreme focus, like when he faced a crisis. Wang Lin only silently pondered. He was so silent that it was terrifying. It was as if the heavens had stopped, the earth had stopped. It was as if everything in the heavens and earth had froze due to the stop spell. Everything became silent. Looking at the black mist surrounded by the shadow created by the celestial guard, Wang Lin's eyes seemed to be able to pierce through, and he saw a weak figure. That powerful resentment wasn't able to stop Wang Lin's gaze. After an unknown amount of time, Wang Lin softly said, "Thank you." Liumi was startled as she stared at Wang Lin and snapped, "Wang Lin, does your heart not ache?" Wang Lin didn't even look at Liumi. He only looked at the figure inside the mist and softly said, "If you can refine him into a resentful spirit, then I can change him back even if it takes thousands of years. Tens of thousands of years. Thank you for returning him to me." All of this was completely outside of Liumi's expectations. She sneered and said, "He can't recover. To make him completely become a resentful spirit, Before Liumi finished speaking, Wang Lin softly said, "If I say it's possible, then it's possible." His gaze withdrew from the mist and fell on Liumi. His eyes were no longer calm but filled with unimaginable killing intent. Aside from Tenghui Yuan, Wang Lin had never felt so much killing intent toward someone. "Now it is your turn." Wang Lin's voice wasn't cold, but it made the surroundings suddenly seem to enter winter. He took a step forward and pressed down his right thumb. The underworld finger suddenly appeared. There was a loud bam in the sky as the underworld river appeared once more and fused with Wang Lin's finger. The underworld finger formed by the underworld river flew out and charged straight at Liumi. Liumi retreated. As she did so, she slapped her bag of holding and a large, old mirror appeared in her hand. This was a treasure that the Huan family's ancestor had gifted her, a low-quality celestial treasure. When the underworld finger fell on the mirror, it caused an earth-shattering explosion. At the same time, Wang Lin stepped forward and the seven-star sword formation surrounded Liumi. Wang Lin let out a shout and 7 rays of sword energy flew out. Wang Lin calmly said, "A fake late-stage ascendant cultivator with only celestial spiritual energy and no domain isn't even a match for a mid-stage ascendant cultivator." The finger of death appeared and closed in on Liumi along with the 7-star sword formation. The sword energy closed in, causing Liumi's expression to change greatly. Feeling a sense of crisis, she bit the tip of her tongue. Blood flew out of her mouth along with an object. It was a blade needle. The moment the needle appeared, it immediately circled Liumi and blocked the 7-star sword formation. Even the finger of death was pierced by this needle. The fourth soul. Wang Lin coldly looked at it, and his eyes became even colder. He raised his right hand and gently pointed at the needle. "Stop!" The black needle suddenly paused. As it struggled, Wang Lin took a step forward and arrived before Liumi. His right hand mercilessly pressed down between her eyebrows. Liumi let out a miserable groan and a large amount of black gas came out from between her eyebrows. Then she immediately retreated. Her eyes were filled with horror. Although Wang Lin's cultivation was only at the early stage of ascendant, his various spells and treasures were extremely shocking. "You want to run?" Wang Lin took another step forward, and his 2 fingers formed a sword. A part of the thunder in his origin soul condensed at the tip of his finger, ready to take this vicious woman's life. The shadow of death surrounded Liumi's body and mind, and her expression was deathly pale. Wang Lin's finger had injured her origin soul earlier. If it wasn't for the fact that she had a lot of celestial spiritual energy in her body, she probably would have died already. Liumi shrilled, "Li-er." Wang Lin frowned and saw the black mist surrounded by the celestial guard begin to churn violently. It let out shrill cries that were like swords that charged toward Wang Lin and tore his heart. Wang Lin's eyes revealed a trace of sadness, but he stabbed forward without any hesitation. His finger rushed out like a bolt of lightning toward Liumi. Just at the moment of danger, Liumi's eyes were filled with despair, but a vortex suddenly appeared before her. This vortex was pitch black as if it was surrounded by clouds. A slightly withered arm came out from the vortex and casually pressed against Wang Lin's finger. With a loud bang, Wang Lin's body flew back like a meteor. His expression became pale and he coughed out a large mouthful of blood, but his eyes were filled with a monstrous cold light. "Not dead?" An ancient void came from the vortex. The withered arm grabbed Liumi and dragged her directly into the vortex. "You save her and the Huan family will be wiped out." Wang Lin's voice was like the freezing winter wind as he stared at the vortex. He was clear that the only person who could rescue Liumi right now was the Huan family's ancestor. As he spoke, Wang Lin stepped forward and condensed Ling Qianho's sword energy without any hesitation. His finger pointed out like a flash of lightning and the sword energy charged directly at the vortex. "Arrogant Junior, even though you have a yin and yang stage puppet, you are still no match for this old man. Seeing that you and Huan Mai have a past, this old man won't get involved in your grudge. However, if you continue to this, then this old man won't spare you," said the ancient voice in the vortex. He grabbed Liumi and completely entered the vortex. However, at that moment, Ling Qianho's sword energy had charged through the vortex directly toward the Huan family's ancestor on the other side. This video will end here.